Thank you very much, Samson. Let me take a minute to say good morning to all our viewers and listeners, and to particularly thank Dr. Atta Kennedy for his kind words. I told him many years ago that it is because of the record of people like him that I, from a very young age, went into student activism, right from my days in Presec, when I became trustee of the Greater Accra Students Representative Council, rising all the way to become NUC's president when I entered the University of Ghana. It's because of people like him, you know, the likes of Kakraba Cromwell, the likes of the Honorable Haruna Idrisu and others who were ahead of us, you know. So I do admire him greatly, and I'm honored for his kind remarks. Let me also state right from the outset that what the people of Ghana achieved this week, I will be probably ungrateful if I do not extend deepest gratitude and appreciation and just indicate how inspired I am by the Ghanaian people, particularly organized labor. 2 months ago, when I raised the issue of the sale of 60% of our shares in our SNNIT hotels and went to Shraj on the 17th of May this year, that this, reading all the facts, putting together the evidence, I was clear in my mind that this was a conflict of interest case. It was an insider dealing. And indeed, when you now read the May 24th, 2024 Transaction Advisors Report, all of those fears, the documentations are intercepted, confirm that what had been offered to Rock City was not made available to other bidders. They were being allowed to even pay on a 24-month installment without interest. They didn't have a bank guarantee. There were no evidence of ability to pay. Their financials did not show that they could close the deal. I am glad that organized labor, the Ghanaian people, backed us, not only with the June 18 demonstration, which was massive, but with what I call the final push, which made everybody run away from the transaction. By Friday last week, the buyer was running away when he saw the fire on the mountain that, hey, with how Ghanaians have mobilized, I'm no longer interested, keep your hotels. And then SNNIT had to issue 2 statements, one close to midnight on Friday.
Unsigned,
one unsigned.
the other one signed.
Then the next day, the board chair had to sign. Few days ago, she had been writing, defending the transaction, calling the bluff of everybody, organized labor, myself, you know, the good people of this country.
Her point was that there was nothing legally wrong.
Yeah, and that even angels will. Meanwhile, she had received this transaction advisors report, which was so damning on the 24th of May, and yet ignored it. And you see, what I ask is, if you would not value the transaction advisor's advice to you, why do you contract him and agree to pay $491,000? Over 7 million Ghana cedis. That is no cheap money. So if you were determined that you will do whatever you want, no matter what anybody says, you will proceed with impunity, with intransigence, with belligerence, why spend over 7 million cedis of our money? An organization claiming that you are cash strapped. That is why you are even going into this transaction in the first place, because you don't have money. You need a strategic investor to bring you money. So the major lesson from the victory of this week, the nationwide strike on Monday, is that there are some issues that we should subdue, relegate sectarian interests, partisan interests, you know, and all those other ethnic, whatever interests. It was admirable to see doctors, nurses, professors, lecturers at UTAC, mortuary workers, Aboboya, bicycle riders, everybody. We were united behind the national interest. It should tell you what we can achieve. There are so many things, even this state capture. If we all come together and say that, look, enough is enough, These politicians are taking us for a ride. Everything is on sale. The country is on sale. There will be nothing left in no time.
When
so let
parts
us rise.
of the Achimota Forest,
Yeah.
a very important ecological zone, were being
Yes.
declassified and to give for whatever.
You know.
You wait for the media to
Yes.
talk, and you leave just those of us sitting here to talk.
Yes.
Organized labor, you have power. You can
have
do
power.
a lot
Now
more.
you see your power.
This thing, the bid, when did it start?
2018.
2018.
Yes.
When did Rock City start?
Rock City started operating in 2019 on their own
2019.
website. Yeah.
And by then, they had the muscle and the experience to take over important institutions with a lot of history behind them.
Very interesting, very interesting.
So let's go to your private members.
All celebration to the Ghanaian people. Let's continue to put Ghana first. Let's come together. When we unite, we are unstoppable. No matter the propaganda or the attacks, the mudslinging, they cannot stop us. Once we unite, we will succeed. So 21 gun salute to organized labor and the Ghanaian people. And you in the media, you also gave us a platform to discuss this. So I am happy that we are starting with the private members bill. And I can disclose on your show this morning that all is set, at least with our first draft. And I have a copy here. We are calling it the Public Assets Protection Bill 2024. Ultimately, what we want to do is to prohibit all politicians and politically exposed persons and other top-ranking public servants from purchasing state assets.
That's why I asked the first
your question about...
Why don't you just prohibit the sale to them?
Yes. So we discussed it. Professor Kweku Azar is our lead consultant on this. We discussed it, but we noticed that since 24 February 1966, there's been this insatiable appetite to just sell state assets, to divest, to privatize, and that would be a Herculean task. So, and having analyzed how the sale goes, those who benefit at the end of the day, we take the view that if we prevent the politicians and politically exposed persons from purchasing these state assets, we will virtually achieve the same end. Because look, if you do the analysis, you pierce the veil. Even those who set up companies, those who, you will see that they are either a relative, a close friend, an associate of those who are buying. So once we separate the culprits, those who have the appetite to own these state assets, and you take them out, you will see that drastically, in our analysis, we believe that we will solve over 80% of the problem.
That's why in the first draft bill, you are defining these officers to include
very broadly
elected officials, members of parliament, assembly members, and other elected representatives, senior government officials, ministers, deputy ministers, and heads of government and departments or agencies, judicial members, judges and other judicial officers, high-rank military officials, senior officers in the armed forces, state-owned enterprise executives, CEOs, and board members of state-owned enterprises, regulatory and supervisory authorities, officials and regulatory bodies that oversee public procurement and asset management, immediate family members, spouses, children, parents, and siblings of these officers. And finally, entities with controlling interests, companies or organizations where these public officers hold significant ownership or control. That is so broad.
Yes, because if you go through the list of people who have benefited from these state assets, and I have a tall list here, you see these people there. And you see what the politicians do is that they try to spread it so that they can give some 10% to some judges here, some military officials here, so that virtually everybody is on board. It was.
When an issue comes up, then they can say,
it's not just us. It's not just us. Oh,
when you need sirens, you include the judges, so you can say judges too are getting it.
Well, you see the trick, So you go through the compilation I have here, Fourth Republic, state assets in the hands of people, and you see these officials there, and that is why we have couched it this way, so that once everybody is really removed. Because you see, ordinary Ghanaians, those in the private sector.
If they cleverly set up a company or they have a connection with a company, that company cannot even purchase.
They cannot, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we'll pierce the veil and they cannot. What I also like about this private members bill is that we are going to create, for the first time in the history of this country, what we are calling the Registry of Assets. Something, will you believe that? As we speak, if you ask the managers of this country to tell you how many bungalows we have in the name of Ghana, they will struggle. They will tell you that, oh, poor record keeping, the data is not comprehensive. And yet, when it is time to sell, they know where they are to sell them. We have been asking the Honorable Abu Jinapo, I have filed an urgent question, the Honorable Kwame Govins Agboja, for more than 2 years now, that we want him to give us a comprehensive list, how much state land we have left, and then all those who have purchased state lands from 1992 to now. He has not been able to. He says that, oh, you know, it's a lot of data, they are still compiling and all. That's why this week I was happy when on the Super Morning Show, he said that he's willing to now make the list available. We have been pursuing this for years in Parliament. So you see, when some people try to create the impression that I am on a partisan vendetta, or I have identified some people I dislike and I'm going after them, that's not what this is about. Particularly for we, the young politicians. We are saying that, look, we are observing what is going on in Kenya, what has happened in Mali, in Guinea, in Burkina Faso. We are scared. Have you read the Afrobarometer?
Yeah.
45% of Ghanaians don't mind, you know, soldiers taking over to clean up the system. What does that say about us in the system? Look at how the Ghanaian people are rating political parties, rating the presidency. It is only the military that scores 67%. We must be worried. So for those of us who, at least, you know, believe that we'll be in this space for some time, we have age on our side, and it's about posterity judging us. When we came, did we try to solve the problem, or we just joined the bandwagon? We became part of the problem, immersed ourselves, and caused more problems. So we are saying, let us have a registry of assets. And if you look at how we've couched it, Section 8, Registry of Assets. A registry of all state assets shall be created and published on a government website, regularly updated in the spirit of transparency and public accountability. The State Interest and Governance Authority, SIGA, is mandated to coordinate with all state institutions to compile and publish all state assets. So if you are in WA and you know that this land is for parks and gardens, it belongs to all of us, you will protect it. Right. You will not allow somebody to show up and say that under some clandestine move, I have title, I'm building a fuel filling station. The people can then rise up. I bet you there are many people who are walking past that place who didn't even know that it's for them. They own the land. It's a state asset. It's for parks and gardens. And so should not be used for a fuel filling station. So
that's ahead of the elections, you were supposed to own how many?
Yeah, these days they claim there are mansions all over the world.
Right.
I mean, but that's all these lies will continue. So, so it's a very exciting piece of legislation, forward-looking. We are also saying that even when you leave office, 5 years you are barred from participating in any of these transactions.
5 years after you leave
5 years after you leave office.
Why not 10?
Well, we'll have in the coming days stakeholder consultation. We'll invite you. But some are even saying that, prevent them even after they've retired from politics. They shouldn't go back.
You have a parliament whose life is just about 4 months. Will this work?
Well, I'm really pushing. I'm lobbying colleagues. I've secured a few colleagues on the other side who are willing, because I want it to be bipartisan. As I always say, even when we won this SNNIT hotels matter, I emphasize that it's not a personal victory. It's a victory for the Ghanaian people.
All right.
I want this bill to be owned by a good number of MPs, by all of us. Imagine if organized labor, everybody says that. Look,
those of you who are sharing your messages with us, give us an indication if you are in support of the bill
so we can do a
that
quick
is
poll.
being sponsored by Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. And that bill is with an interesting name, Public Asset Protection Bill 2024. And I'm looking at the memorandum before me right now.
Yeah. Now, and have you seen the penalties? Section 5. Any politically exposed person found to have violated this act shall be subject to disciplinary action, including termination of employment, fines, and imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years. Any state asset acquired in contravention of this act shall be forfeited back to the state.
The one who oversaw
the sale,
the transaction, also ought to suffer.
Okay.
Because you are not supposed to do it, so you don't do it.
Okay.
Right.
That's interesting.
Once the person is politically exposed, you don't sell to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we'll add that.
Now let's get to the issues that are coming up from some of the specifics that you raised.
Yes.
And if we can be very brief about them. The Bulgarian Embassy.
Yes.
You said government was going to be saddled with the 5.3
million.
Yes. The statement from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister shows that government had nothing to do with this. It was a private person's land. Bulgarian Embassy bought it, and then that person dies. And then that person's will, someone who seeks to inherit him, comes to cause trouble, and they say that there was a court order that he used to do the demolition. Eventually, the land gets into the hand of one Dr. Yao Edu Ampoma. You suggest this is politically exposed person. Abu Jinapo suggests to you that that cannot be the case. What's going on?
So, unfortunately for the lands minister, what he has been stopping me and doing everything that I don't get, the full Sole Enquiries report. My lawyers filed an RTI request to his ministry. The respected senior lawyer, Mr. Tadio, sorry, no response. They treated it with contempt.
When was this?
Over a year. It's been more than a year.
Okay.
I filed urgent questions in Parliament. They said they won't publish the report. I mean, why set up a sole inquirer?
But that sole inquiry was set up after you blew the whistle on this matter.
Whistle, yes.
Okay.
I, in one of my exposés, revealed that, look, when Ghanaians thought that after the Nigerian High Commission demolition, that would be the last. And you see, we are playing with fire. You know that under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, this is an act of war. Indeed, our president, when the Nigerian demolition happened, our president had to call his counterpart and beg. The foreign minister at the time, Onyama, issued a strongly worded statement that they consider it a criminal attack, an attack on Nigerian sovereignty, and that they were going to retaliate. Our president had to intervene. Then they did it again. So we shouldn't joke with these matters. They have grave consequences. Unfortunately for the lands minister, through my usual interception capacity, I have intercepted the full Sole Enquiries report. I have a copy here, 149 pages. And a lot of what the minister is saying is not supported by the facts.
What do you mean?
First of all, the land, the Sole Enquirer has determined that it's a state land. If you read 6.1, it says the subject matter of this inquiry forms part of state lands acquired under Certificate of Title, TLS, number 3443, dated 6 July 1920, for public services. In 1977, the government of Ghana granted a lease of 3.235 acres for a term of 99 years on 1st April 1974 to Mr. Theophilus Kofi Layton. The lessee erected a dwelling house thereon and rented it out to the government of the People's Republic of Bulgaria. So let's establish that. It's a state land. That is what the Sole Enquirer determined. Then the lands minister this morning is also creating the impression that, oh, it's entirely private. They have come in just because it's a diplomatic mission. And, there's no complicity on the part of state actors. That is not what you find when you read this report. If you come to page 122 of this report, 6.8, Bulgaria's land title certificate number GA6454 was eventually cancelled. We find that this was fraudulently done by the use of the judgment against Ms. Ansa. So that the Sole Enquirer has discovered that when these demolishers claimed that they had a court judgment, it was a fraudulent court judgment. They didn't actually have a court judgment. They went to attach another person's judgment called Mr. Ansa. Can you believe that? And they had their agents in the Lands Commission who came along with them. So this sole inquirer recommends sanctions. What is the lands minister doing about his officials at the Lands Commission who have brought us this international disgrace? Let me continue. In procuring the cancellation of the interest of the Bulgarian Embassy, however, the records from the Public and Vested Lands Management Division of the Lands Commission still indicate that the interest of the embassy is subsisting and due to expire in 2033. So the Bulgarians have an interest. Their 50-year interest expires in 2033. Then they use a different judgment, engage in fraud. It continues. It was found out that Mr. Layton had acted fraudulently by getting the Lands Registration Division of the Lands Commission to cancel the Bulgarians' interest by attaching the judgment dated 24 September 2002 against Mr. Ansah to particulars of the Bulgarian Embassy for cancellation. You see why it is important that when there are commissions of inquiry, the reports should be made public. If you have nothing to hide, if you don't want to shield your officials, your appointees, your agents and assigns, publish it so we all know. Then he continues. Mr. Jojo Hagan, without the necessary notices to the occupiers, forcibly evicted them and also caused the demolition of the property without following due process. This is the retired judge. He's the senior justice, Anto Ofuriata.
So what is Abu Jadapo reading and sharing with us?
So what is he reading? What is he reading? I'll make a copy for you. Very damning report. Then he continues. After the demolition, Mr. Jojo Hagan went ahead and assigned the land for the unexpired residue of Layton's lease to Dr. Yao Eduampoma on 11 December 2018. Dr. Yao Eduampoma is the person who stands to benefit in all of this fraud, all of this demolition, all of these illegal shenanigans. He is President Akufo-Addo's appointee at the NDPC. He is the government star witness against Dr. Opuni in the Opuni trial, ongoing Opuni trial. He stands to benefit. So you see, political actors, if we remove them, you see that more than 80% of these sales, these demolitions will stop. Then he continues. Dr. Yao Eduampoma went into possession and prepared the land for development. It was in the course of the development that his workers were asked to stop work and subsequently arrested by the Property Fraud Unit. We also found that the inviolability of the Bulgarian Embassy has been confirmed by the Court of Appeal. Due process were not followed by the Lands Commission in the cancellation of the certificate of the Bulgarian Embassy. In such cases, the cancellation should have come from the court. The fragmented recording system of the Lands Commission was partly to be blamed for the confusion leading to the cancellation of the certificate and demolition of the property. Damning report. The Lands Commission cannot extricate itself from this.
Do you know if this commission report has been appealed against? Because 6 months after the issue of a white paper on it, it becomes a judgment of the High Court in the terms of Article 280 of the Constitution. And the adverse findings can only be appealed to the High Court. And we have a Commission of Inquiry instrument by which the Attorney General can use to exact the compliance with what is in there. Do you know if there's been an appeal of the decision?
No. I don't, to be honest, I don't believe that there has been an appeal because a year after this report, I have intercepted documents that shows that they are working with the findings of this report. Indeed, if you look at the latest letter I intercepted...
There was a publication of the summary of the findings.
Yes. And the minister refused to publish. I put out a statement. I filed urgent questions that they should publish the full report. They refused. I did an RTI request. They refused. These are the things they are hiding. Now, 22nd December 2023, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs writes to the Bulgarian Embassy that they are acting on this report. They have done valuation, and that the valuation, that's what I published this week, with the minister is responding to. The valuation is 5.3 million. Now, the sole inquirer is saying that we can't continue this way, where we keep losing taxpayers' money. People act this recklessly. We don't hold them to account. So find Jojo Hagan, the key actor who was working with Dr. Yeduan Poma, and get him to pay. Will you believe that a few months ago when I filed an urgent question asking the Attorney General the whereabouts of Jojo Hagan, they said they can't find him up to now. So the Bulgarians, in my engagements with them, they are saying that, look, our patience is running dry. If you can't find Jojo Hagan, we haven't seen even any declaration that he's wanted, you are not collaborating with Interpol and all of that, then the government will have to pay. That is why in my write-up I said that, look, there's a vital information being concealed, which is the fact that apart from potential conflict and straining of diplomatic relations, bilateral relations with other countries, this state capture can also lead to financial loss. Okay. Now the Bulgarians are saying that if you don't find Jojo Hagan, you would have to pay. And they have seen this report. They are aware of all the complicity with your Lands Commission. You are not doing anything to sanction the Lands Commission officials who conspired to do this work. So on Bulgaria, I am not surprised that in the minister's first statement, he conveniently forgot about the Bulgarian demolition. This matter that I personally brought it to his attention. It was due to my prompting that he set up the sole inquirer.
Okay. As we indicated,
look into this.
As we indicated at